Welcome to Money Matters. A global shortage in the supply of semiconductor chips has forced manufacturers to curtail or even halt production. Hard-hit car makers have had problems finding chips to put into their automobiles. And electronics makers are also experiencing disruptions at their factories. What's caused the shortage and how long will it last?
The manufacturing world has faced a cut in the supply of chips since the second half of last year. The problem continues and has led to disruptions in car manufacturing.
Due to the pandemic, fewer people went out in the past year, so demand for vehicles decreased. That's why car makers ordered fewer chips. Chip-making factories produce fewer automotive chips, producing chips for other industries instead. But demand for cars has ramped up this year. The automotive chip makers couldn't match up, so it forced big car makers such as General Motors to halt production. It also impacted auto industries in Japan and China.
The U.S. is the world's second largest automobile market. Some car makers recorded an increase in sales in the first quarter, particularly Toyota and Hyundai. Chong says these chips are a major component in car making, and its shortage has impacted the entire industry. The industry will not resolve the problem quickly.
The impact of the chip shortage is huge because car making needs more than one type of chip. Usually, higher performance automobiles will need 40 to 50 types of chips. Some luxury cars have over 100 chips. If chip makers fail to deliver just one type of chip, the whole car cannot be produced, so the problem will not be solved in the short term.
Microchip makers have raised their prices as inventory shrunk. Some car makers have warned they'll need to raise their prices too by up to 30%. But Chong doubts car makers will hike prices.
Consumers may not rush to buy a brand new car, they may go for a used car. If they buy a new car, the delivery time will be quite long. The delivery time may take over a year, so higher chip prices may not have a huge impact on car prices.
The price of a car may not reflect the rising cost of chips. But electronic products such as mobile phones and computers that are highly dependent on microchips will see an impact on their prices.
People may have more than one mobile phone, but 10 people may not own one car. Also, we are in the 5G era. Everything happens fast. We require high-quality mobile phone chips. Due to the supply chain disruption, chip makers have talked to the mobile phone and computer makers about the chip prices since the beginning of this year.
Fong says social distancing during the pandemic created a strong demand for electronic products. So chip makers ramped up production.
Due to the pandemic, many are stuck at home. They work from home or study online. The purchase of computers increased tremendously over the past year. Chip manufacturing was almost at full capacity. The shortage of chips and the increased demand has really disrupted manufacturing.
As of 2020, the global sale of microchips reached $450 billion, up 7%. Shipments reached 1 trillion chips. Fong says the shortage of chips will delay the launch of new smartphone models and may even affect the supply of current ones.
Now, if smartphone makers can't source their chips from their regular suppliers, they will find new suppliers. Changing to a new chip forces them to change the design of their new products.
Some
smartphone companies have scheduled launches of their new products, but that may be postponed. It reflects how bad the situation is.
Apart from the shortage, politics has also complicated matters.
Last year, the US-China trade dispute over electronic products also created problems.
Last December, the U.S. Commerce Department put China's chipmaker, Semiconductor Manufacturing International, onto a trade blacklist over security concerns. Also, China's smartphone maker Huawei was sanctioned. Chip makers built up their inventories and caused shortages.
With the U.S. suppression of Chinese technology, the mainland's tech companies stocked up their inventory in the third quarter last year. That's why the chip makers and designers increased their chip shipments. Also, the sales of computers and smartphones jumped during the pandemic last year. So, the capacity of producing chips was very tight.
The Semiconductor Industry Association, which represents the U.S. industry, says the U.S. continued to maintain its global leadership in semiconductor innovation, essential for high technology. But chip manufacturers are based in Asia. 92% of them are from Taiwan, and China is catching up.
They have huge room to expand. At the same time, the Chinese government also hoped domestic chip makers develop further.
Even natural disasters contributed to the chip shortage. In February, a snowstorm in the U.S. state of Texas triggered a power cut, forcing the stoppage of chip manufacturing at one point. The same month, a 7.3 Richter scale earthquake hit Japan, damaging some factories. Then, a major automobile chipmaker was badly damaged by fire. Manufacturers have promised to boost output, but analysts have their doubts.
For instance, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing built a new factory in 2017, but it took 3 years to complete and start production. It couldn't solve the problem in the short term. Some industries require higher tech chips. 5G is launching in the next 1 to 2 years, which require chips to cater to new technology and applications. AI and robotics also require semiconductors. All these developments create a very unbalanced supply and demand.
The rollout of COVID-19 vaccines and vast sums of government aid will accelerate global economic growth to a record high this year. The International Monetary Fund forecasts the world economy to expand 6% for 2021 and 4.4% in 2022. It would be the fastest expansion for the global economy in IMF records dating to 1980. The upgrades come as advanced economies rebound, particularly a sizable upgrade for the U.S. that is expected to grow 6.4% this year.
Now, this makes the United States the only large economy projected to surpass the level of GDP it was forecast to have in 2022 in the absence of this pandemic. Other advanced economies, including the euro area, will also rebound this year, but at a slower pace. Among emerging markets and developing economies, China is projected to grow this year at 8.4%. Now, while China's economy had already returned to pre-pandemic GDP in 2020, many other countries are not expected to do so until 2023.
The Monetary Fund expects the 19 euro countries to collectively expand 4.4% this year and 3.8% in 2022. Without heavy government aid that helped sustain companies and consumers during COVID-19 lockdowns, IMF forecasters say Last year's 3.3% downturn could have been 3 times worse. President Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion relief package supported U.S. growth, while an acceleration of vaccines is beginning to let people return to restaurants, bars, shops, and airports in larger numbers.
We've decided to go big because we think that the risks are of severe scarring if we allow there to be long-term unemployment. And we're projecting a pretty rapid, as we deal with the pandemic, we're expecting a rapid recovery. I'm hopeful we'll be back to full employment next year.
In the IMF's estimation, the global rebound will gradually lose momentum and return to pre-COVID levels of just above 3% growth. Countries will again encounter the obstacles they faced before the pandemic, including aging workforces in most rich countries and in China.
After the break, property in a tiny Llama Island hamlet shows what remote living on the edge of the city is like. Stay with us. Welcome back to Money Matters. Llama Island is well known for its laid-back atmosphere. In this episode on property in the island's district, reporter Alice Kahn checked out some village houses in a hidden corner on the south end of the island that's popular with expats.
In our last episode, flat hunters thought Pingchao property prices were higher than they expected. So this week we took a boat trip to another island retreat, Llama Island, to see what the prices and rents are there. Most people know the main centers on Llama, Yongshu Wan and Sokhu Wan, but few have ever heard of this tiny paradise, Motok Wan. Motot is located on a spur of land that juts east and faces Aberdeen. It sits at the foot of a mountain called Lingkok Shan. The earliest settlers were from the Qing dynasty a few hundred years ago. They made their living fishing or farming. Motok Wan has 3 tiny villages. One is along the beach, Motot Wan, Motot New Village on the hillside, and a very old village in the valley. A total of 50 houses are located here. Currently, about 80 people live here. Only 10 are native villagers, including 4 old folks.
Because many native villagers moved to the city. They went to the city for education. Our school here had already shut down for many years.
Raymond Chan is an indigenous villager and the village representative. He says foreigners have been residents of Motot for almost 3 decades.
Their income was good. A lot of them were teachers. Many expats live here, Germans, Africans. They love the environment. They don't like the noisy city.
Lois is from Cardiff. She came to Hong Kong 7 years ago and moved to Motot 6 years ago. She teaches in Taikou.
We have to go into the city every day. It's crowded, you're bumping into people all the time. When you come back here and you get off the ferry, it's, now you can relax. There's space, there's room to breathe.
Lois does a lot of hiking on the mountain. She loves swimming and enjoys sitting at the beach. Lois says she isn't interested in living in the city closer to work.
It's pointless to consider it because the rent would just be too extortionate. It's quite ridiculous, really. I really like living alone.
She pays a few $1,000s to rent a 700 square foot flat on the 2nd floor, where she grows plants on the balcony. As each native villager is allowed to build 1 house in a village, some came back to build or renovate their old houses and lease them out for the income. The current rent in Motot is about $10 a square foot. A 700 square foot flat in a new village ranges from $7,000 to $8,000. And the rent in the older village houses in the valley is $4,000 to $5,000. But the flats are smaller, about 500 square feet. The relatively low rent attracted expats looking for a good deal.
The rent here is cheaper. Some used to live in Yongshui Wan and moved here because the landlords raised the rent. The rent in Yongshauwan has doubled. The rent for a 700-square-foot flat in the Yongshauwan Pier area is $18,000, but our rent is half that.
In the city, if you rent a room, the rental is 10,000 or at least 7,000 to 8,000. Rent for a bedseat is about 3,000 to 4,000, right?
Raymond Chan and his brother Po Chan still live in Motot. They own the seafood restaurant at the beach, the only eatery in Motot. Like many other native villagers, Raymond built a village house to earn some income. He rents out the top floor and second floor to foreigners. Now he is leasing out this 700-square-foot ground floor flat. It has a large living room and dining room and 2 bedrooms. The previous tenant paid $6,000. Raymond is now asking for $9,000.
The increment is not too much. Currently, demand is huge, but supply is little. There aren't many empty flats. The occupancy here is always high. The property value is higher. The government rate and rents have also increased.
That's quite expensive, but actually there are not much transaction thing. Even though I know some owners, they're asking for like 16,000 per square foot on the island, but I think it's quite difficult to sell at such a price right now.
We had a look at Raymond's flat. Could he justify the rent?
Did you make the space larger?
The design of the stairs, I didn't use the spiral staircase, which takes up space, so this area is narrower.
Is it here?
This is the area, then the stairwell space can turn into a storeroom, and the width of this wall is narrower. Then the living room is larger.
The living room is over 300 square feet.
How do you lay out the furniture?
The furniture can be put here, the wider double-seated sofa or sizable queen's couch can be put here. It is spacious. The furniture can be put on both sides.
The windows of the house are small.
The natural light is not enough. We need to turn on the light even in the daytime.
Today is a cloudy day. Actually, natural light is sufficient. You don't need bright lights in the bedroom. You need to draw a curtain anyway. If you need to replace a large window, especially on the island, it is so inconvenient to move the glass.
The other potential problem is a privacy issue.
It is quite close to the next door.
If you compare with those in the new territories, it's not close. It is about 20 to 30 feet apart. If you compare to those very old village houses, you can touch the next door.
The smaller bedroom is about 70 square feet, much bigger than rooms in newer nano flats. The larger bedroom is slightly more than 100 square feet. It can fit a double bed and a wardrobe. The kitchen and toilet are basic. Raymond says he won't spend much on renovation, but will provide some electric appliances such as lighting. Po also built a village house. He rents out all of his flats to expats. The current rent for his ground floor flat is $8,000 because it has a terrace. The second floor flat is $7,000, and an expat is paying $8,000 for the top floor and the rooftop. That gives him a combined space of 1,400 square feet.
A new lease could go up to 10,000. This is the market rate. Such a large living space is worth that much, right? In the new territories, the rent for a top floor with a rooftop can reach 20,000.
Louis wants to continue to live in Motot, but fears the rent will go up.
It is a real hidden gem, yes, so it is a big concern. We don't want the rents going up.
Motot has only the most basic amenities, which is part of its charm. It only has a seafood restaurant run by Raymond. There's a store next to the restaurant on the beach. That's pretty much it. To reach civilization, residents take a 20-minute ferry to Aberdeen to connect to the more developed, less idyllic parts of Hong Kong.
General Motors has announced it's electrifying what amounts to an automotive sacred cow in the U.S., the pickup truck. GM plans to start production of Chevrolet Silverado electric pickup trucks late next year. It'll reportedly go 400 miles or 640 kilometers on a full charge, just enough to get you home from the rodeo. The vehicle is expected to go on sale in early 2023. Wall Street has been increasingly suffering its own version of range anxiety, focusing on GM's strategy to roll out electric vehicles as it slowly aims to catch up with U.S. EV market leader Tesla, where the new car smell is called Elon's Musk. Still working on its own new car smell, GM recently unveiled a GMC Hummer electric SUV. Music to our ears.
We're taking the bold steps necessary right now toward an all-electric future to support our vision of zero crashes, zero emissions, and zero congestion. We will spend more than $27 billion through 2025, including $7 billion this year alone, in the design and manufacture of EVs, and will launch 30 electric vehicles in that time frame.
From go, go, stop to up, up, and no way. As Russia celebrates the 60th anniversary of Yuri Gagarin in space, a panda at the Moscow Zoo had his own cosmic experience. Ru Yi, the panda, had his chance to lift off on a bamboo rocket made especially for him. The bear-sized rocket caught Ru Yi's attention only momentarily. He monkeyed around for a bit before the panda decided to leave the space capsule and instead chose to eat it. Gagarin's 108-minute flight into space 60 years ago set a new horizon for humanity and turned the farm worker's son into one of the 20th century's heroes overnight. The 27-year-old single Earth orbit in April 1961 was one of the Soviet Union's most enduring Cold War victories and fueled a space race with the U.S. Now you ask, what's with the panda? We're not sure. Please bear with us.
That's the show. Thanks for watching. Next time, how firms that struggled through the pandemic are deploying 5G technology to turn things around. Good night.